Hey, it's Jordan from Think. Today we have an amazing video, especially if you're a condo owner that wants to go from a condo to a house and you're not sure how to do it. Today we're going to show you not only how to do that, but how to do it with the exact same monthly payments. And this is going to impact not only your lifestyle, being in a bigger place to live, somewhere that you can call your own, but it's also going to have a massive impact on your long-term wealth. Let's get into the video and come along for the ride. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to do a case study of a property that we sold 7 years ago. I'm in front of it right now. We're at 183 Dover Court, one of my favorite loft projects in the city. It's called the Argyle Lofts. It's a traditional hard loft building, about 85 units, about 15 years old. It's won lots of awards. I've sold a number of units in the building and it's really, really cool. About 7 years ago, almost exactly 7 years ago, I sold unit 311. It was my friend Peter's and his girlfriend Amy's. And they were looking for, as much as they love the neighborhood, they love their loft, they were looking for a backyard, some parking, and something a little bit different. Today, that loft is worth about $1.3 million. And one of the reasons for that is this company called Uber came along, and no longer parking is as much an issue as it was back then. But anyways, they went from $635,000 to $1.3 million, or exactly about 15% a year. So this unit was a great investment, and it is a beautiful unit today. However, we're going to look at what Amy and Peter were able to do selling that unit for $635,000 back then, and what they were able to do in the future by buying a house. Hey Peter, thanks for having me back to the house.
Good to see you.
I love the new renovations you've done. You just finished off the new deck outside, the second deck outside. Yeah. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
That's part of being a homeowner versus a condo owner.
Right. Sometimes
the good part and the bad part. But believe it or not, it's been almost exactly 7 years since we sold your condo back in my neighborhood.
Yep.
And you moved here. And actually, Jared and I were just at your old condo in the loft. It's a fantastic building.
Yeah.
And we just shot it. I just remembered how beautiful it is. And yet you decided to make the move. What were some of your motivations behind that? Because we talked about that.
Yeah, we love that building. We love the area. The building itself was a nice old, good feeling building to live in and just to kind of be around, just to even, walk around that whole area. Great restaurants on Ossington, on Dundas, and just down at Queen. And everything about it was great. The space was great, but living in a building like that with your wife and your child is not ideal. Yeah. And if you're single, it's a fantastic place to be. It's a loft style, so it's very open. You don't really get a lot of privacy, and that was one of our biggest challenges. But another challenge was the fact that we had no outdoor space. There were no common rooms, no common areas. Yeah. And so we really wanted to have a place where we could hang out outside, we could barbecue, we could have friends over, both inside and outside, and have a little bit more flexibility. So we were really looking for a home at that point.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly as well, I had been investing for a while. You had a lot of interest in some of my real estate investments and what I was doing in terms of cash flow. Yeah. And you were also looking perhaps to build up some equity as well.
100%. So we are both sole proprietors. We both own our own business. Yeah. We don't have a pension. Yeah. So we do our own investing. We definitely have some RSPs and some interest in different things. But in a real estate property, we wanted something whereby we had flexibility in bringing in incremental revenue with a tenant, and then having that opportunity and really that flexibility in building a potential laneway house. Right. And so when we bought this place, as you may recall, it actually came with a tenant, which was a big check mark for us. And so that's literally helped. The difference between being in a condo with paying your mortgage and your fees and all that good stuff, and living in a house which was more expensive, but having a tenant, net we were even.
Yeah, it almost worked out exactly even. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, in the math on it, your house, I think your condo back then we sold for about $635. Yeah. We bought for this for about 300 grand more.
Yeah.
And the difference in mortgage payment was that tenant amount. It was almost worked out exactly to the dime,
Yeah.
an even push.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you were able to get a detached home,
Yeah.
a lot more space,
Yeah.
a backyard.
Yeah.
Now it has a tenant, and it has actually a lovely unit. So it checked all of those boxes. So that's something I want to talk about. Is one of the keys that investing. You became a real estate investor. Well, as soon as you take on a tenant, you became an investor, and really the benefit of that is what we call leverage. So condos are fantastic. They're a great way to get into the market. Jared is shooting this video. He's got a condo. It's a great way to get in the market. But basically, when you are in a condo, you will sort of, all boats will float up. So for example, your condo is now worth about $1.3 million.
Right, yeah.
Wonderful investment, beautiful
Yeah.
condo. It went at exactly 15% a year.
Yeah.
That's a great investment, and everybody would be happy with that.
Yeah.
However, by leveraging, by bringing in a tenant, by taking yourself to that next level, not only are you able to get a bigger house and all of those are the benefits to your lifestyle, but you're able to go from 15%, now adding on the leverage of your tenant, and also you are also able to do some improvements.
Yeah.
So in a condo, you really can't improve that much.
Right.
And so let's face it, you've also added some money into this project as well.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about it is by adding the value, you also increased the value of your property substantially. So instead of going from 15%, believe it or not, this place today is worth about $2.3 million. So instead of making about $650,000 on your condo, you're looking at closer to $1.6 million.
Yeah.
So that is the value of leverage. So
That's a beautiful thing.
That's yeah.
Yeah. And essentially our monthly payments are essentially the same. Now, we ended up, to your point, we ended up throwing money into the rooftop deck. We put money into the kitchen.
Yep.
We ripped apart the backyard and put it back together again. So we've done a bunch of things which you don't have to do in a condo. So there's definitely been incremental investment into this home.
Right.
And there's still more to come. But we look at it as literally a forced savings.
But you also wanted to do that. Like the benefit of a home is you can make it your own. A condo, you got a box, and you can't just say, I want to add on a room.
Right.
There are rules against that.
Right.
So again, with a condo, you're tapped. You were not only able to leverage with the tenant, but the money that you put into it also goes into your pocket and it becomes your own.
Yeah.
So on many, many levels, this is the type of project that we love to do because, first of all, it's taking somebody from a condo. We're going to do this to you one day, Jared. We're going to take you from a condo and we're going to show you how to get into a house. And it's such a big deal for people right now. There's so many people who are in condos, they want to get into a house. They're intimidated by the housing market because of the prices of houses. And time again, Paul and I are able to find them a property, a duplex, or a basement unit, and we're able to get them into it for around the same amount of money that they're spending now. And it's just such a much better long-term investment for people that it's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, what we do now is we not only find the property, we actually have a service where we'll do a complete turnkey. We'll help find the tenant. We'll put the tenant in. We'll screen them. We'll get that person on the right road, because what we have found for most people, you were lucky you had a good tenant, but we have found for most people, their biggest fear is becoming a landlord.
Sure.
So taking that, so they want to get a house, but then they get to that landlord part and they get, oh, I've heard so many horror stories. I've heard, all those things. So what we're attempting to do is take the fear out of that and have people get the benefits of going from becoming a landlord, but doing so in kind of a turnkey manner.
Yeah. It's I understand that kind of trepidation of being a landlord because we've never been one before. Yeah. And what are my roles and responsibilities and so on. We got lucky that we have a great tenant, but at the same time, what is great is our house is big enough that we can't use the whole house. So it's great that somebody else can use it. It's being used, it's being maintained, it's being looked after, and every once in a while, you got to change the chain in the toilet downstairs or something, something really simple. And if it gets too much, you call somebody in, but that's going to happen anyway.
Right.
And so it's literally, we've got a great relationship as well with our tenant, and I would highly recommend that with, get to know them, make them almost part of your family if you can. It doesn't work for everybody, but we have that kind of ease of discussion about issues and things that happen, and the relationship is really positive.
Right. The other thing that you mentioned that I really like about your setup, my setup as well, I have somebody in my basement, as you know, and I always have, is the flexibility. So somebody, let's say they go from being a couple, maybe one person in a condo often, boyfriend, girlfriend move in together, maybe get married, maybe they start thinking about having a kid. Obviously they need more space. Do they need the whole house though? They don't necessarily need the whole house right away. What I like about having a tenant, whether it's somebody or a duplex or something like that, it gives you the flexibility. In my case, when my kids are 7 and 9, when they become teenagers, I'm taking over that basement again, and that's where they're going.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for your case, you're going to be traveling more, and now let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
Retirement, cash flow, income, these things. You have some ideas about that as well. We've got potential laneway suite back here.
So that's something that we're looking at. Our neighbors are looking at that, as you know, and that's kind of an interesting one too, because for me, there's a lot of trepidation about getting involved with building a laneway house. But I do know that it's right for this area. This is a great area. It's a family area. It's highly valued by a lot of people. I would be crazy not to look at it and not to make that investment. So as I mentioned, our neighbors are going through it. We're kind of watching on the sidelines a little bit, see how they do it.
Timing is everything. You have a good, let's face it, again, we're entrepreneurs. You have a good year, we're going to build it.
And that's where, so our whole idea is, and to your point, I have a daughter who's 24, and she may end up going into our basement. It's actually a main floor and a basement tenant apartment.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's great. So she might end up taking that over at some point as well, because it's hard for the younger people to get into the market. But that's a great way to give them a start. They can make some savings. It's good for us. She's there. But at the same time, we're looking into the future to have basically some monthly income coming in on our asset, which is our land here in Leslieville.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah. I'm working with a client right now where they've recognized that, let's face it, it's very possible that young people coming up are never going to be able to afford a house. So what they've done is actually get a bigger place. Their daughter and her boyfriend are going to take over the main floor, and they've got second and third. And it's bigger than the condo that they have now. And they've got a great space in a great area. And they're able to, and one day, maybe the daughter will take over the whole house or what have you. Again, it's that flexibility that's really terrific about that option. You could also rent out one level, and eventually, like you said, your daughter might move in. So there's so many benefits of doing this, but at the end of the day, we're able to go from condo to a house. Had a fantastic effect on your long-term wealth and equity by leveraging, and able to do it for almost exactly the same amount of monthly payment. So 7 years later, it's a pretty good investment. Huh?
Yeah, no, I feel I'm in a much better spot. And when you also, it's something that we've talked about too. When you come out of a divorce and moving into a condo is a great opportunity at that time. But at some point, you do need to make that step, next step, if you are thinking about the long term and your retirement and so on. So it's literally like taking a bit of a step back to, this is probably the wrong way to say it, but it's living off less money for the short term to get a lot more money down the road.
Yeah. Well, that's really what we're trying to accomplish today. For all you condo owners, you can do it. You can actually buy a house in Toronto. I guarantee you, Paula and I do it almost every day, or at least once a month for a client. It is possible to get yourself a house in the city with revenue. We can help you do it. We can help you even with the renovations. We've helped people put in that basement apartment. We've helped people put in that second unit. So it's something that we really believe in. And if you need help, if you have any interest in doing that, if you need a hand doing it, we are the people to call. We do it all the time. So hopefully you found this video helpful. We have more, as you know. Please subscribe by smashing that little button down below me. If you have any questions, please put them in the little DM box below. And other than that, Peter, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks,
I really,
Jordy.
really appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
And I can't believe 7 years.
I know, it's amazing. Time flies.
Okay.
Yeah.